Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your man's conscious effort so that you can feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if it feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm sharing insights from the husband of an empowered wife as part of our man panel. This is part one of our three-part panel. My guest, Samuel, is not a student, but rather the husband of a podcast guest and a relationship coach trainee. He generously agreed to be part of our Man Panel series. And today I'm going to get his perspective on the changes in his family as a result of his wife using the connection framework and the 6 intimacy skills. So get ready to hear the male perspective on what makes men attracted to their wives and wanting to be her hero. Samuel was incredibly open, generous, and willing to share deeply and personally about his marriage. And I can't wait for you to hear what he shared. But before we get to that, imagine being his wife who invited him on the show on my behalf to be a guest and talk openly about their marriage on a podcast, knowing that there are millions of downloads of this podcast. Now, can you imagine the courage that must take? So I want to give a big shout out to Samuel's wife, Sage, for fearlessly sharing her husband with us on this podcast. What a great gift. Thank you so much for your courage and your contribution. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes. My guest, Samuel, is not a student, but rather the husband of a podcast guest and a coach trainee. But here's a twist. He actually also read The Empowered Wife himself. He generously agreed to be part of our Man Panel series. And today I'm going to get his perspective on the changes in his family as a result of his wife using the connection framework and the 6 intimacy skills. So get ready to hear the male perspective on what makes men attracted to their wives and wanting to be her hero. So Samuel, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so grateful you agreed to come on and share your story today.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous, as I said already, and I'm just gonna share a little bit about our old days. We had a little complicated story how we got together. You know that story from my wife a little, and but after all, I wanted to be a good husband, build a family, and have a good marriage. We weren't really well prepared, I would say, because we haven't heard many people sharing really authentically about their story, and so we went in, and I think one of the hardest things was that we often felt like we're the only one who have those issues, And I think what I struggled with the most was I felt like I was never enough. Like no matter what I did, like there was another criticism coming up, and I couldn't be enough to my wife. Like it seemed like she always wanted more of me, and I just didn't have it. Or I even tried. Like I really tried to sacrifice myself and lay my life down for my wife, and I had my own issues too, and a lot of stuff she hit the point. I didn't see myself really, and her perspective was also good, was also revealing a lot of stuff in me where I was just blind to. So I think it had its right to be heard, her voice. But yeah, in many ways, she had a hard time with me being me within our marriage. And I think the guy I was before, she was kind of attracted to, like once we started like being in relationship, figuring out engagement, figuring out if we want to be married. Once it all started, it changed. And actually, yeah, like before we were married, I was not attracted to her anymore. Like I was really like, and she knows that. But I had like 5 weeks before our marriage where I was just like blank, I was just not, yeah. And we follow Jesus, I say. And so to me, it was like how we came together was like, to me, kind of like an invitation, you know. And I said, yeah, I take it, and I just need peace. I prayed, and I got my peace immediately. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I knew my wife; she was on and off with her feelings because already she knew who I was. She was many times embarrassed of me in front of crowds. We also come from a different culture. I come from Germany. I'm German. Germans are quite direct. They speak what they think. And yeah, I had to learn a lot with American culture, and with the culture of my wife, coming from kind of a pastor's background. Like you be a little bit reserved, or you just try to be appropriate. And so we had very many conflicts, and she was a lot afraid that I will ruin our friendships, the friendships she has. And so she tried a lot to like shut me down, like stop talking, like or her expression, she's an open book, very emotional. So her expression, I could read her face and knew already, yeah, I said something wrong.
Oh, you're in
And
trouble.
so it was a lot like that. And in the household, I'm not kind of like, I believe that I can do the household stuff too. I'm not like how do you call it, sexist,
Right.
where you
Sure.
say, yeah.
It's the
So
woman's job. Yeah. You're
yeah,
not.
no,
Yeah.
I'm not thinking that. But even though what I did was also never enough, like, or I didn't do it right, or things like that. And so yeah, really quick it developed where I felt like I'm in bed with my mother,
Oh.
so
Eh.
yeah, no, that was not very attractive. And I was also still glad, like, I tried to work on myself, and look at myself in an honest perspective. And she brought things up. For example, like I could really dominate a conversation. I could really like take over the conversation. And yeah, so she, for example, those things, she put a light on it. And for sure, she didn't put it there in a respectful way, in a loving way, and I didn't do that many times either with her. So yeah, we had really ground for conflict, a ground for like unenjoyment, and I was just like, okay, if this is my marriage now, okay, that's what it is. It's gonna suck, but
Oh.
then we're married the rest of our life in a disaster. And
Oh no.
yeah, it was depressing, but I really, from my spirituality, I really said, okay, I'm gonna take my cross on me and carry my cross. My wife is my cross, and she said the same with me. And but it was not a peaceful place to be. So
And nobody
yeah,
was
that's
happy. And she
yeah,
wasn't happy and you weren't happy, it
no,
sounds like.
no,
And so, and I really hear you felt criticized a lot, like
yeah,
almost everything you
yeah,
did and everything you said. Um, so I think a normal any human is going to get defensive at some point when they feel constantly criticized.
Oh yeah.
So, what was your response? How did you handle that criticism?
I mean, I think for much time I swallowed it really, and I thought, okay, she's the voice of my life who shows me this now, and I try to handle it. And yeah, and it went through periods because we also moved after we got married in Germany. We moved to Chicago. We were there for 8 months. Then we moved to Georgia. We bought a house. We were there for 2 years. Then we moved into a community in Georgia to work with refugees, and then we worked finally to Guatemala, where I'm right now with my wife and my kid. And so it changed within those times, even depending on the stress we were having from outside,
Sure.
I mean, I don't recommend that to anyone to marry and then be all over the place. And
Okay. It was a
but
lot.
yeah, it was a lot. And so it really differed from swallowing it, me being maybe in a better spiritual place, like I could handle it more, thinking, okay, I want to work on myself. So, I want to become better. But finally, I think Guatemala here, like we're here now 1.5 years, a little longer. But the first 4 months was really hard because I couldn't speak Spanish. We were here to learn Spanish kind of, and we had no friends, no family. We had people around us, but I couldn't communicate with them. My wife could better communicate. And that was, for example, when really things got out and where I could not hold on to anything. And I got really angry because I was lonely, not
Yes.
having my wife beside me.
Yes.
And so, yeah, like I would explode, I would explode. In the beginning, I was more depressed. Sometimes I was depressed for 5 days, and she could not reach me then. I was in my man cave, and not,
Sure.
yeah, not wanting to come out because I didn't want to be hurt again, and so, yeah, and finally in the end, like I mean, what means the end? Like we still have to work on ourselves, but it's much better. But we're in a place where I also am much better in immediately communicating to her,
Mm.
and I mean, I read the book, and this one of the skills is saying ouch, right?
Yes,
and
it is.
and
All my
that one,
secrets. I'm worried about this.
no, but it's, I read it and I really said to myself, okay, this book is basically like appropriate for men, except the one skill when it means respect your husband, and we need kind of love our wives, love your wife needs the man version. But otherwise I felt like, wow, this is, yeah, I need my quality time every day, to to be good on my own. And I felt like throughout the training I was with my wife, I felt like, how can I depend on her being respectful to me to be loving to her? That is kind of, I want to do my part and not depend on her being respectful so that I'm okay, like, but I feel like it's harder for me than it is for her. Yeah.
It is harder for you. Tell me about
It's
that.
it's harder for me to change than it is for her because I mean, I don't have a coach,
That's right. That's
I
right.
don't have the group. I don't
You
have
don't have the
a,
community. No.
yeah, I don't have the community. And that really, I see that is a big thing for her. And when she's actually, when she was lacking with that, we were really going worse. And sometimes I realized, and I was like, okay, go to your group now. and, and then come back. And she would come back and it would be totally different, and just to have this community of listeners, of people who help you see yourself, and I need that same thing, and so that is one big thing, and also I think men deal with more pride, with more personal pride, like in front of the woman, and like I came from a family where my grandfather, he was like the boss, his birthdays were celebrated. My grandmother's, like, she gave a coffee and that was it, And so it's like I feel that in me. It's in me, like this, like I'm the man. I need to be the man, I need to be respected and stuff. And I hate that, and I really work on that. And but I think that's my theory, that in general women are stronger in change, even with that community and everything, because they are not dealing with such pride as men do, like, and maybe it is because we have a history of thousands of years of sexism, and or machoism. I don't know the word in English exactly, but
well, you don't have to try to convince me that men and women are different, and we have different challenges and different I mean, I would say different goals in the relationship even is my experience. And I think I hear you saying the same thing. And I really hear your wonderful accountability and humility, Samuel, of that this, even though you said that this is my cross to bear, you also have really looked at how you can show up differently and make it better. And you've treated all the difficulties in your marriage as an opportunity for personal development and growth. And so and it just sounds like you've done a lot of self-reflecting on what your contribution to the breakdowns were, which I admire very much.
Yeah. No, and for me personally, I realized, like, what I really need to learn with Sage in a healthy way is to say, hey, here's a boundary, okay? You don't need, I know you can do better. I know you can talk with me in a different way, I know you can make a different decision, and more believe in her ability instead of like, get out of my face, like, what the heck,
Right.
And so, like, that's where in our difficulties today still, like, where I have my part where I want to change and need to change. And sometimes it works, and it's hard to change, and
sure.
And so, but it's like this being, not being touched by this criticism. And I know she doesn't criticize me on purpose, it's her way of, of habit, of the past and stuff. I really know she wants to respect me. She wants to love me. She wants to be my wife. And she knows that I want to be her husband. I want to love her. And it's just, what I can say through the training is that we have, before we had like maybe 20% peace and 80% war, fight. And it was terrible. And so with the training now, we have really, I would say, 80% peace. We don't have a friendship yet. I mean, we're working on that now. I really feel like the friendship we had in the beginning was destroyed through the bad habits, bad patterns. And over 5 years, there had been really big damage that had been done on both sides, but now I feel like we're in this peaceful place where sometimes we have 20% like conflicts, but they are resolved without screaming, without yelling, without explosion. They're more like, okay, we're hurt. It's hurtful. The pain is the same, but we both kind of have learned a different way how to address it. And it's only 20%, which is great, because, in this 80% of peace, we really can work towards a friendship. And it'll take time. We both know that, but I'm really thankful for your book, for your skills, for Sage especially, and for me too. And because it had a huge impact on our marriage. Now we're in our sixth year, and it's unbelievable to us, even
Wow.
our son, he's very affected by that, with our conflicts. He's so sensitive. We are also sensitive. and he would really show up differently when we were under this constant pressure, under this constant atmosphere of fight. And so he's even in a better water, and my wife also lets me deal with him how I deal with him. That was before also an issue, that she needed me to handle him like she handles him. But she lets me now most of the time. We I'm not a perfect dad in no way, but
Sure.
but it really, we can come to reconciliation so much faster, my son and I, because she's leaving me alone with him.
Oh,
She's letting me, and just maybe leaving the room when she can't handle it. And it takes about 5 minutes, and we're hugging and saying sorry. I say sorry for my stuff. My son says sorry for his stuff, and we have peace again. So that is really, I'm
oh my
very
gosh.
thankful.
Oh, this is great. Thank you for sharing. These are really personal details you're sharing, but this is so valuable. And I just love getting to hear about the inside of what goes on in your family. So I think, like you said, you didn't have very many examples of authentic marriages, genuine marriages
Yeah,
yourself when you got started. And it can start to feel like you're the only ones that are
right.
struggling. And so this is great to hear about, even the way your son is responding differently and maybe thriving more because there's 80% peace instead of 80% tension and
Yeah.
hostility and fighting. So when did you first notice that something was different? Or when did you first hear about the book or the programs?
That's a funny, funny thing. Yeah, that was actually, it was here in Guatemala too. In our first few months, as I said, we had very many tensions, and I think one night I was just I was swallowing it, and my wife knew something was wrong, something was off, and she touched my hand. We laid in bed, and she touched my hand, and I, I didn't control it. I pulled my hand back like someone shocked me with an electricity or something, and it was just her touch on my hand that made me completely pull back. And I was shocked about myself about it. And just this physical reaction that built up when we wouldn't address this in a healthy way. And she was saying, Samuel, what's going on? I feel there's something going on, obviously, and I was always afraid to tell her, because if I would tell her, I could run away from you right now, She doesn't want to hear that. She would cry. I would feel terrible for making her cry, for making her suffer, or even just, I don't want to deal with her suffering, And so she asked me what's going on, and I said, you really want to hear it? I could walk out this door right now and never come back. That's what's going on. I hate my life.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes me emotional, and it was really wow. And the next day, so we had a good conversation then. Actually, at first she freaked out. She cried, all the reaction I was scared of. And she said, how that makes me feel and all that. And I said, then I was actually yelling at her and saying, how I feel laying beside you with this feeling, and I'm going to stay. I'm committed,
Hmm.
and I have no hope, in this commitment. And so she actually heard that, and she said, oh, wow, I understand. Actually, I understand. And we really, one phrase I always said when I pray to God, I said, oh no, she's never gonna leave me, and because I knew I'm not gonna leave, And so I knew her commitment. She's never going to leave me. This is hell,
This is hell. We're
And
stuck here.
but in that night she really hurt me, and we came together again. And the next day she Googled just simply, what do I do? What do you do when your husband is not attracted to you? you know, and then Laura Doyle came up with that book, or the podcast came up too, and she went for it, and she was immediately convicted of her stuff, and I told her a lot of that stuff, like I feel criticized all the time, controlled, and I told her many things, but she couldn't hear it from me, and I think that's right. I can't hear stuff from her, and she can't hear it from me, and it's maybe there will come a time, and I think now, even if we hit the right spot, like, the right tone, we can even talk to each other about stuff, but we're better in saying now, okay, stop. We got to stop. We can't talk more about this, and we're more sensitive both. And but this is how it got. And through that, she talked to me about the training, and we had one of our biggest fights about the training, because I felt like after she had the podcast and the book, she still kind of tried to tell me what I do wrong through the lenses she has now from your book, and I was freaking out, and this one day when we talked about her joining and paying the money, it's quite an amount.
It's a big investment.
Yeah, it's a big investment, and it's good to have that commitment. But I asked her in a fight. I asked her, so do you do this training then, or do you do this coaching for me or for you? Don't do it for me. Don't do it if you hope that I'm gonna change. Okay, do it if you want to change yourself, and I'm gonna work on myself. But and she was responding, really annoyed, really pissed, really like, and oh man, I was so hurt. And I was just in this whole hopelessness. Even that training doesn't gonna work, the coaching doesn't gonna work, because she's gonna do it for me, for my change, and I exploded. But then we came together, and she said, yeah, I really gonna do it for me. I'm then we signed her up, and the change, I mean, even without the training already, she listened to many podcasts, like it really had already an effect on us, but to have the community, that was really, to have other women talk about the same, we're not alone, and the coaches, you guys do a great job in listening, redirecting. I mean, she tells me about it, what you're doing with her, and how you handle her, and it's just really that had such a big impact, and she just needs to have that for continuously, because between now she's doing the coach training, right, and the period between the time of the coaching and the time of deciding we do the coach training, she didn't have that community like that, and it's, for her, it was really, again, a hard time to keep on that level of, like, I'm aware of the stuff, I'm, and for me it's the same thing, like, but I don't have the community like that,
Yes.
And I mean, I think you should get someone to write the male version and do the male community.
I know, we got to find that guy, whoever he is. write that book. So what did you, so I love hearing especially about the fights, about the program, about the training, right? It didn't bring immediate resolution to every issue, for sure. What did you notice that was different when she started like listening to the podcasts or hearing the book or getting into the programs? What what
Mhm.
um what did you see first?
Yeah, I think what so her behavior first changed. She started appreciating a lot of stuff. And because I read the book, I said, stop, stop. I know you do that because of the training. She started to say thank you for all these little things and gratitude.
Yeah,
And I could
you didn't
not
like
handle that.
that. You
For
didn't
that, it
like it.
wasn't. No, I hate if people are not authentic. And I know she did it because she wanted to do it to really become that person of gratitude. And she really becomes that. So she changed in those ways. She acted it out, without feeling thankful for sure. But 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 she really became that. And I know now, like, she really looks at me in a different way. She really does respect me, and she sends me sometimes messages, and I know they are authentic. Or she tells it to me in the face. And I have a hard time accepting compliments. But I really know she is looking me now with a respect, you know, and the few times she is falling, often it is because she's tired, she's exhausted. And I mean everyone is gonna mess up, when we have
Absolutely.
those conditions. So,
Sure.
but I really so this little detail, acting it out in the beginning, doing things differently, like taking her time of enjoyment. Um, so yeah, she followed those skills in little ways, but the major way that changed really is I feel that she respects me now. And so that is I mean that was the biggest issue of our marriage, I would say. And so that has changed in a major way, even with how I communicate with my son. And she wants to be on my team. I want to be on her team. And she really wants that because she thinks I'm a great guy, which I don't think I am. But I mean, we all have our
I think
mess,
you
and
are. I think
you
you
know,
are.
but yeah, like we all have good qualities to us. We all have worse
Sure.
qualities to us. And so I feel like when a person tries to be good, to treat people good, to love, the person who tries to love or tries to respect, the try is important to me, not the success, but the try. And she really tried, and she even, yeah, like, just the new habits had an effect on her, so she changed. um yeah,
You didn't trust it at first, it sounds like.
I didn't trust that she really, like, did that for herself, and that I mean, I sometimes when I'm in my worst, you know I I feel like when we have a little conflict, I feel like, it's not never gonna change. And that's just in that pain. You look for the worst. So I like the skill to look for the evidences, the good evidences, right?
Yes.
And so, I mean, I try to do that too, and it helps me too with her, because I know she really tries, and she really does. She is changing. And so, yeah, like, to me, that is really helping me also, going through my pain, through my, when I have a tired day, an exhausted day, I only see the worst in people. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is helping me too. um yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but I love this piece with the gratitude that you're like, don't do that. Cause it felt like insincere, right? You didn't think it was heartfelt
Yeah.
at first, it sounds like. And how about now? Do you?
Yeah, I hear her now. Like she wrote me a text message today, and yeah, just telling me stuff about what she sees now, like where she respects me and where she really wants to be on my team, because my parents-in-law are coming soon. And
Oh,
that's always a big trigger, you know,
yes, it can
because
be.
before she was
Sure.
kind of on their part, on their team, and then I came in, and we never had the time to become a team ourselves. And so, like, when she sent me that text message, I really believe it. You know, I completely trust, wow, she really does want to be on my team, you
Yeah.
know, and she wants to receive her parents in our house, and receive them as a team, and she wants to be in agreement with me about what we're doing, and I want that for her too. You know, I don't want to boss everyone around, you know, but we want to do things together. We want to offer a nice space together to people, you know. And so, yeah, so I believe that now, because I see also the evidences of change in her. You
Yeah.
know, I see, you know, I know when someone is tricking me, or, you know, I usually have a good sense for that. And I know her for more than 6 years, 7 years, really well, really close. And so I know when she's authentic, you know, and it really often is a perspective, you know, when she gets up and has this right perspective on me, you know, just remembering that perspective, then it is really authentic, her respect for me, you know. And I experienced that with me too, when I change my perspective, and I really have a harder time doing it, you know. um but when I get there, it really changes my feeling, and it becomes an authentic love, you know, an authentic attention and gratitude. So it is really remarkable.
That is great. So it sounds like you've changed in some ways too, Samuel. How have you changed?
Yeah. How have I changed? Oh my gosh, ask my wife. but but I really, I mean, you know, it's a gratitude, and it's also a criticism of mine, because really, because of her change, I naturally show up different. But if she falls back, I am so affected by it still, you know. I'm so affected
Sure.
by it.
Sure.
And it's really like, you know, I partly I say it's because I don't have this community. And even here, you know, women are more open to talk about their feelings, to cry, to be authentic with their emotions. And so I'm like that too. I'm really very open about, you know, I would even cry, no problem. But to find people, find men to do that with, you know, and who really are okay with seeing you and accepting you with your mess like that, you know, and are not maybe too proud to admit it for themselves, like that's hard, you know. And it's even more hard if you do it in a different culture like Guatemala, in a different language, you know, to find those. And I really think, um I mean, how I've changed, I really change a lot depending on how she shows up. But I also would say I have become more, um, a little bit more trusting, like naturally more trusting that it's gonna be okay. You know, like I see that sometimes when we have our 20% again of difficulties, you know, like I can have my pain, I can just kind of do my own thing and tell myself it's gonna be okay. I know already from having experienced going through hard conflict and going through it healthy, you know, has really relaxed me in some ways, where I'm not in this complete hopelessness, you know, this like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be it for the rest of my life, you know, like that is not there anymore, I would say. Like maybe a few times, but I can really make the work of thinking, what also has changed in a major way was my relationship with God, you know, like
Tell me about that.
because yeah, I mean, first the trouble have affected me with God a lot because the pain, even in being in Guatemala, the pain was elevated. Like it was 20 times more painful than in the United States or in Germany.
Is that
And
because
so,
you were so isolated, you think? Or
yeah.
yeah.
Isolation, absolutely. The isolation. And I talked to God, and I would curse the heck out of God. I started blaming God for the first time in my life here in Guatemala. I never blamed him for anything but here. And I cursed him with the worst things, and I says, this is your effing fault, and
Yeah.
in the pain, how we all feel it, and
Yeah.
and but then listening to God, wow, he loves me, he's patient with me, he's even happy that I am honest to him about cursing him, he's really to me a good parent who takes all that stuff and responds with absolute patience, absolute love, absolute acceptance, and basically saying to me, Samuel, this is the relationship I want with you, this honest, and you never need to be afraid that I will let you down. I was like, wow, I was really in a, I don't know, in a spirit of worship, like I never have been before, like in awe, like, wow, this is the love of God, this is your love to me. And so the difficulties here really have driven me to that. And then having Sage enter the program and getting those skills and sharing stuff with me, even looking at God, like God is looking also for the evidences in us. He's not pointing the finger on the stuff we mess up. He's looking for what are the evidences that Samuel actually loves Sage, or Sage actually loves Samuel and respects him, And so, I mean, to me, those skills are all, all the from the Gospels too, like they're existent there too. And maybe I don't know, but it really, yeah, I feel like I can put things on God and even say I can, the enjoyment, for example, like every day to do at least 3 things, right? To enjoy, and I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time still to see what do I really enjoy. I enjoy a movie, and I would, I think what I can do better now, enjoy things and take God into that enjoyment, and just be there with God, So to me, all those things have affected my relationship with God also in a really major way. And yeah, I mean, I have still far to go, especially with the
Sure.
enjoyment thing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We all do. Yeah.
yeah, it's
There's always
also
room
the
for improvement.
discipline in it, to
Yes.
follow the habit, the structure, but I would say, yeah, those things have changed me to also enjoy more freely,
Yeah.
to not feel guilty for enjoying, like, and yeah, religion can have that bad impact on people, that you feel like you don't deserve enjoyment, and I think that your skills had this major impact on my wife too, because she and I had some of the same struggle. And I think before our marriage, I could even enjoy better. And in our marriage, I I I think because of the religious impact it had, even my wife on me and stuff like that, like I had a harder time just enjoying stuff, and I think through the skills, through the new habits we want to build or we're building, those things are a little bit more back in their right place,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is so interesting because I really hear the spiritual aspect for you. Your relationship with God has been impacted by your own application of the intimacy skills that you wrote about in the book, but also your wife applying them in the way that impacts your relationship with your wife. That there's a whole other dimension to it,
Yeah.
including so that's very interesting. I can really appreciate hearing that that's all tied together, right?
Yeah.
I've often thought of my relationship with my husband is also like a metaphor for God too. Like how
Mm-hmm.
do I trust him? Do I am I going to show up with love, or am I going to show up with fear?
Mm.
Um so I really hear you having the same
Yeah.
experience. So interesting. And I've heard you mention a bunch of skills now, Samuel. So I know you're definitely more up on the skills than I think most husbands. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of husbands are really up on all the skills, but I've heard you talk about self-care and gratitude and respect and how you practice them. So it's kind of a unique take. And so I kind of want to hear a little more about that. I mean, do you consider yourself, do you say, okay, these skills, I'm doing these too? Or do you feel like, okay, this is Sage. Sage is doing these, but as it applies to me, I sort of pick up things.
Yeah.
How is that?
I mean, I actually took the shortcut version. I mean, on Google, I Googled them in a short description version again later after I read the book, and I just basically tried to write them in male perspective. In short, it's really just a short thing. And I mean, I'm really a advertiser of your book and your training. I talk to women about it and about men too. but I mean, I think what makes it hard for me to practice them as Sage practices them is the lack of the community, the lack of the accountability with the coach, with people who hold you accountable. But yeah, I definitely do look have it always in my mind, like, try to follow up with some stuff, and the enjoyment, like I said that already. I like to watch a movie, I love movies, good movies, and so yeah, it's hard to watch a movie every day, but I actually do it a lot of days within the week, and say like, yeah, and I'm not feeling guilty for that. I'm not feeling ashamed for that, and I'm just doing that, and it's really my enjoyment. And so that
And that,
practically, I said, okay, I gonna need something, and this is really something I can point out, and I can say I completely enjoy that. I completely enjoy the effects it has on me, to just relax in that, and it's not that I need it, but I say, good, I enjoy it, I do it, and so many times I do it, and in the night I'm often tired, um, and so it's a good thing to do, and I hope for when our relationship grows more into this friendship, what I said, there we have still far to go to build this friendship where we really what we had before, where we really enjoy each other and trust each other and be with each other in a friendship kind of way. And we have that already, we have that in periods, but I think I have to do also a lot more things, and the skills are helping me, like the evidences I try to practice, and it's just really harder to do it on my own. But yeah, I would say I go through the list and take respect out and put love in, and I see, my wife, she loves to be listened to, and I was a horrible listener in the beginning, or at least with people who have something to say and really want to say it, I can listen, but she wants to be listened to, like actively, and really like be asked to, she wants you to be interested in her. And so I see that's the way how she feels loved. And so I put that in that skill for a man, like listen to the wife, be interested in her, like, and physical touch, she loves to be touched. And I need to grow more, I want to grow more in being more aware of, okay, because I'm not doing that naturally anymore. Like before we were engaged, before we were married, I wanted to touch her all the time, hold hands and all that stuff. And I know I think if when our relationship grows and goes back to a more natural enjoyment, with each other, I really think that is going to grow back too, but right now I have to say, and she knows that I have to be aware of touching her because I want to love her well, and so,
Sweet.
and I mean, we have intimacy, and that's no problem at all. Our sexual life is really was never a problem, except for the really the time when we were in Guatemala, like, in the beginning, like, I don't know, we had a hard time having intimacy for some weeks, and then we would always come back together. But but I would say now that is also like no problem. Like it really has gone back to a more healthy place, and we're really glad about that too.
So
But
you mentioned you felt like you were married to your mother before.
oh
So
yeah,
but is that, to what degree do you still feel that way?
um no, I almost never feel that way anymore. No,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
when she's criticizing me now, it's mostly that I can see it on her face, but she isn't saying anything, and
It still
and
comes
then
through though sometimes.
and she's really like good in like stepping outside then, but especially in the beginning of our marriage, oh my gosh, like especially our intimacy too, it was a disaster, because I said to her, I feel like I sleep with my mother here,
Yeah.
like I can't do this, I have a
Yeah.
hard time. And
Yeah.
like, I really, my goal was to love her, to lay my life down for her. So that meant we have intimacy, and even I didn't want it, and so it was hard. And
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm really glad we went through that, these 6 years, and that we both of us never gave up, and we always tried to come back together no matter how hard it was. Oh my gosh, I prayed sometimes to God, just let her have a car accident or me,
Just let her have a what?
just let her have a car accident
Oh
or
yeah.
me. Let us
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Really,
Oh yeah. I
really.
gotta get out of this
That's
somehow.
that's is better than being in this marriage,
Wow.
And
Yeah. Was that
and
painful?
so now I really don't feel that anymore. This mother, um, because she doesn't speak things out like she did before. She doesn't. Because before she was for hours in this like this this grumpy look. I knew something was off, and then I pushed her to tell me, and then
Oh
she
yeah.
told me what was wrong with me, and then I was like, you know, I was like, okay, mommy,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Awful,
So
right?
yeah,
So
it was
you
awful.
don't
No, but that's
you don't miss
gone.
that. You don't miss
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
no. Oh
No.
my gosh.
Yeah. No. And so tell me about this vision for your family, because I really hear a vision of there being a friendship. And
Yeah.
how will you know what will that look like? How will you know when you have that?
Oh, I I have to know when I know it, I guess. But um, I mean, I think I know my friendships with the people in my life. In Germany, I have really good friends. Like I would even consider at least 7 or 9 people friendships. They last. Like we have gone through difficulties, and we are really with each other because we enjoy each other. And there's no hidden motive. No one wants to change the other one. And we have discussions, we have disagreements and all that, but we know we really accept each other as we are.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I long for most. And Sage longs for the same thing. I think every human longs for that.
Yes, I think
And
you're right.
yeah, so I really think the day we know we have that friendship with disagreements, with arguments, but without this, like, this person tries to change me. I can't trust this person because they don't like me the way I am. And for me, that's the biggest prison. I've tried that. I've even, like, one time when we were in the States in that community, I said to her, you know what, you you are the leader of this family now. I just gonna submit to you. I just gonna do whatever you want. I just gonna be a slave to you. Really, I can't stand this. I can't stand this. I just gonna do that. And then I hope you're happy, you know? And oh my gosh, it was really killing me. Emotionally, it was completely killing me. And and I mean, I'm so glad we're far from that. And I know we're gonna head in the direction that is gonna be completely different. And I really wish for us to have that relationship where I know she's my friend, where I know she's beside me and where she knows I'm beside her, because I want to change her too. When I married her, I looked at some of her stuff, some of her faults, and I thought, oh, I'm going to change that. That's going to change. And maybe when we have a child, that's going to change, and stuff like that. And really selfish stuff. And I realized too, wow, how hard is that for me to not want to change her, you know? So,
Yeah.
and I guess I was more like, okay, I don't give a crap. I'd let her be. Sometimes I criticize if it is touching stuff of mine. When she's careless, sometimes she's very clumsy, break stuff. And like, oh, it could drive me mad. It could drive me mad. But to really, I want to say, okay, she is a little clumsy. That's really in her, and that's okay. It's not the worst. And if I feel disrespected by her, it becomes the worst trigger, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to throw her out of the house.
Yeah.
But if I feel respected and I feel like we have a good relationship, it's not that much of a big deal.
These things become small.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
things become small. And so I really have this hope for this friendship where we have this natural, and it will grow there. I already things become natural, but that this friendship grows where I can just be with my friends in Germany, and they're men and women. I can really enjoy just their company, and yeah, that is my vision.
I love your
And
vision. Yeah, beautiful. And it sounds like emotional safety. You're describing
yeah,
emotional safety
yeah,
and it sounds like you have a lot more emotional safety than you have in the
oh yeah,
past, and there's still more to come. There's that quote, there's always room for improvement. It's the biggest room in the house, right? And
yeah.
just like at my house too, there's always room for improvement. And so would you say, now I'm kind of curious to hear what you would say to a man who is where you were where you just thought this is hopeless. She's
Mm-hmm.
never going to leave. I'm never going to leave. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully one of us is in a car accident, which I don't think you're the only person that's ever thought that. I think a lot of us have thought that. And, but he wants, that there's a couple that wants to be where you are now, where it's 80% of the time it's peaceful. They can get out of the conflicts much more quickly. There's hope, I think, for an even better future. He's allowed to be he's allowed to be a father the way he wants to be a father. I don't know, what do you say to him? But he's feeling like you did.
Yeah, I mean, first I think your question about the vision of the future, like what's your goal, like what marriage do you envision, that would be the first question I would want to ask too, because then to hear someone's vision, you can know, okay, this makes sense for you guys or not. To me, it also always depends on if someone follows Jesus or if someone follows kind of his own idea of love. So it depends on that. But I would say, yeah, if your vision is friendship with your wife, fellowship, and this deep enjoyment of one another, then I would say lay your life down, like go with it no matter what it takes, and take your time, take your space. And then I would basically introduce them to the skills. Honestly, yeah, I would say start being satisfied on your own. Like don't need your wife's respect to be okay. That I would, yeah, that I say to men. and then like look for the evidences of your wife where she is actually respecting you. And I have a hard time personally with that. When I'm in pain, I said that already, I have a really hard time to find those, to look for those evidences. But I would say that, and then I say, actually, here's a guy, I talk about him, with him about his marriage, and he has a hard time too, and things are all the same. They have the same issues with respect, and she doesn't feel loved and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I told him, don't tell your wife about the skills, okay? Don't tell your wife about the book. It needs to be someone else. Maybe, often, like with that guy, for example, I said, let's just have meetings with my wife and your wife together, and maybe my wife and your wife become better friends, and my wife can bring her in to the skills, and maybe, my wife, she suggests that to the women who she knows who have troubles, invest the money, become a part of that group, really. And I basically wish that a man would say to me, Samuel, can you be my group? And I would say, hey, I need you to be my group too, so let's be our group together. So that's what I would say to him. And with that, I am totally confident that things will drastically change for the better, so.
Wow. I love that. So Samuel, does this feel like a big accomplishment to you? Because it appears that way for me, like just looking at your marriage from the outside. I've heard Sage talk about it. I've heard you talk about it now. And this really is an incredible transformation. And you are now role models for another couple about how they could fix their marriage, that they're suffering. I mean, how does that feel? I mean, I think it's a big accomplishment. I think you must feel proud.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm proud of Sage, of my wife, for being committed, and it's a hard thing to be committed, like for all of us, right? To be disciplined, and to keep going and do the same thing every day, and but I really see, I'm proud of her for that. And I mean, I'm proud of me for really having sticked with it no matter what, and I didn't have a relationship with God back then to sustain me in this terrible time of our marriage, and I really, I'm proud of that, that I sticked, and that Jesus really spoke to me in a way that made me like stay no matter what. And so, and I, I mean, I have a hard time being proud of myself, because I feel like we're shaped by one another. We're shaped by our circumstances, and I haven't brought my circumstances. I come from a family of divorce, like we went through hard times with my siblings. I have 5 siblings. One died when I was 16, like there's a lot of pain that just shapes a person. And I'm glad I had good people in my life who shaped me, good friends, good relationships I can really trust. And so to me, these accomplishments are never our own accomplishments. Like it always, and in this case too, like part of it is just you guys showing up in Google, and helping us through, helping my wife through, and that helping us, me too, with the skills. And so, I'm really thankful for that. So, I would say, I'm thankful for that. Yeah.
I love that. How important is it to you that your wife is happy, Samuel?
That was one of the most important things in my life. When we married, I really put all my effort was in pleasing her and being a good husband to her, in loving her well. And sure, I mean, our picture of what love means is always a little different. But I really try to I mean, I think I even put her on an unhealthy pedestal, like held her in a place that was maybe not the healthiest, and it created some of our unhealthy dynamic. One day she said she was depressed about my humor, and usually she could laugh about it, but this one day she was in a bad mood, and then I made a joke and she couldn't handle it, and it was like all our marriage was at risk then, like, and in that case I should have just said, Sage, if you're not happy with my humor, that's okay. You don't have to marry me, just make that decision. But for sure, I wanted to already love her. I wanted to already commit myself to her, and so I thought the most loving thing is now swallowing that and just carrying that, and just love her and, accept her in that way. But for sure, that's not possible over a period of many years.
Time, you can't do it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. You reached a limit. You couldn't be, you could no longer focus on making her happy because it was impossible.
But that was my goal. My highest goal was really to love her, and I didn't know how to do that in a healthy way. Because a boundary in that moment, a boundary would have been a healthy love,
Yeah.
Like just a objective boundary. Hey, it's okay. You don't have to love my humor, instead of, okay, I maybe change my humor, or I maybe not make jokes with her, but with my friends. I have my friends to make jokes. No, just to say healthy boundary, and that would have been a healthy love. But I tried to make her happy.
Like, how about making her happy now? How important is it to you today? Or you feel like you're not able to yet at this point or something?
I think I think I still am. I still want to have her be happy, and I think what I need to more work on is like working on, okay, her happiness. I mean, not that it depends on me, but yeah, a happy couple is one couple that also, where the man also says, okay, I do these things because she loves them,
Yeah.
and so to be touchy or something, like, yeah, I want that. I still want her to receive my love, and sorry, I'm emotional.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
no, but I still want that, and I think I have a lot of healing to do still from those 5 years.
Samuel, what else has changed at your house?
I think um, what has changed in a major way from the very beginning of the skills of Sage doing the skills is saying sorry for things, apologizing. I mean, that's one of the skills, right? And yeah, because I read the skill too, and I basically, her apologizing for stuff helped me to kind of learn to trust her apology. She really looked at herself, held herself accountable, and yeah, and I could trust that always in our marriage, that she tries to keep herself accountable, um, and so because of her starting really reflecting on herself, being convicted by your podcast, by your book, by a lot of stuff, um, yeah, her feeling convicted and then apologizing for them, and doing that in bigger ways and in smaller ways. When it's happened, when something happened, immediately she would, like, it would take her a few minutes, maybe sometimes a few seconds. Oh, I'm sorry, that was again stepping over the boundary, or controlling, manipulating, and so she started that, and then I read the book and I learned also to trust. Wow, she's really apologizing. She's really admitting she was controlling here, and so because of that atmosphere of trust in apology and accountability grew. So this base of trust, grew, and from that I could also much faster apologize for stuff, and feel more free to apologize at all. Because if I'm just blamed or feel criticized or controlled, I would never want to apologize, give in and say, I made a mistake. Because then I would even admit that she was right,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, and so that really had a big impact on us. And I really want to say that that's something I know in her. She always wants to hold herself accountable, and that's a real big gift I see in her, that I really think is one of the reasons I married her. One of the reasons I'm really attracted at her is that she really wants to grow. She really wants to change. She really wants to learn how to love, how to respect. And yeah, that's just really a huge gift to have her with that. Yeah.
Yeah, she'll never leave. Uh, that much neither one of you will ever leave. We know of this.
Right.
And she will always continue to grow and learn to love you and respect you even more,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's her nature.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
believe she will never leave, and she will also never stop following Jesus in a way that she looks at herself and says, I want to grow in this love I see in that man. Yeah.
Well, we should give a shout out to Sage right now too for inviting you on to the podcast on my behalf, because it's a very vulnerable thing for her to do. And if she hadn't been willing to have you say whatever you said on this podcast, then we wouldn't have gotten this gift today. So thank you, Sage, for letting us have Samuel today. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks, Sage.
Well, Samuel, you sound like a terrific husband to me, and just a wonderful guy. So self-aware and insightful and wise and spiritual. This has been just wonderful to get to hear about the inside of your marriage from your perspective. It's an invaluable gift. I'm so grateful that you came on and shared with us. So thank you so much for this gift.
Yeah, I'm happy if it can help be a testimony to others too, and just to not give up. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and thanks for being in my wife's life, especially.
My pleasure. I'm so happy. Yeah, there is hope, and that came through loud and clear.
Yeah,
in your sharing today. So fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll share insights from the husband of an empowered wife, part 2. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that I've been watching a lot of Netflix, but I feel like I should read more, so I turned on the subtitles.